4 of the batting order aren't all missing from the Mariner lineup at once. So that's important to keep in mind with all this. Now, the Angels may have gotten more suspensions, and I'm going to be totally honest with you. It's for guys that don't really matter. And I don't mean that in like they don't matter as a person. I mean they don't matter as far as the outcome of the game, because you're talking about interim manager Phil Nevin. He's the guy that really caused this. He took exception to Trout. He's the one who scratched his starter on Sunday, put another pitcher in there strictly for the purpose of throwing at Mariner players. And he only gets 10 games. That sounds like a lot, but trust me, it's not. It should have been more, because you're sending the message you can really have a premeditated plan to throw at players, potentially injure them. We're, Mariners fans, everybody in this whole situation is lucky that pitch did not hit Julio Rodriguez. And he only gets 10 games for it. I think that's way too low. Anthony Rendon's on the injured list. He gets a 5-game suspension. Now, he'll have to serve that on the other side of his injury. But the guy's not even in the lineup right now. So you're talking about the Mariners missing Winker, Crawford, Rodriguez. The Angels are missing their interim manager, a guy who's on the injured list, a guy they basically threw out there as a mercenary, and Andrew wants to basically get ejected and throw at people. He gets 3 games. In total, 9 players and coaches will miss time. I would be remiss if we did not forget that the Angels' interpreter towards Major League Baseball gets a 2-game suspension. So that's a bit of the issue right there. It's the idea that the Mariners are missing, quite frankly, the heart and soul of their lineup because of the suspension. A fight they didn't start. And if you want to go back to it, if the Angels took exception with Trout getting that close call in the head, that's one thing. Even if it wasn't intentional, that's their prerogative if they want to take it that way. Well, then you ended after you did the same thing to Julio Rodriguez. They threw up and behind him. Okay, that's 1 for 1, and there's no reason to throw at Jesse Winker in the 2nd inning, which was really the powder keg that made this the brawl that it was. And that's the other thing of it. You don't see fights in Major League Baseball quite that way. Not so often anymore. The last one I can think of on that scale was Jose Bautista and Rougned Odor, and that was several years ago. Okay, so we're talking about a once-in-a-several-year incursion. Yes, you'll see benches empty, you'll see guys barking at one another, but the violence we saw, that's what it was in that fight on Sunday, is something you don't see nowadays. And the Angels had a premeditated plan. So in my opinion, that's what this is right now. I don't think the Angels' suspensions were hefty enough. They should have been longer than that. And again, I don't know what Julio Rodriguez did to earn that suspension. I will say he was ejected and suspended, so they must have seen something. But when you say for his actions, that's just so unclear. How are you supposed to know what he did? There's no explanation there. So I don't know what he did to get that. Winker and Crawford, I kind of suspected that would be where their suspensions were. Maybe not as high as 5 games for Crawford defending a player. But boy, oh boy, the Mariners get the tough deal out of this. And you want to talk about the Angels' premeditated plan to kind of even the score, so to speak, in their mind? Well, let's not forget these two teams are kind of battling for 2nd place in the American League West. The Mariners briefly kind of vaulted into 3rd over the weekend when they had that 5-game win streak. Well, now the Angels, for lengthy periods of time, by kind of setting this whole incident off, have taken 3 of the best Mariner hitters out of the lineup for a significant amount of time. Let's not forget about that in this whole deal as well. Okay, so that puts the fight behind us. We have so many articles at KOMOnews.com about it, detailing all the suspensions. You're going to want to read all of that. There's so many Angels staffers, you're like, wait, who is that? The pitching coach got 5 games, stuff that doesn't even matter. But we also have the timeline of this fight, kind of breaking down step by step what led to this, and also pointing out that the Angels and Mariners play 10 more times this season. 10 more times. I'm not saying we're going to see what we saw on Sunday, but I don't think that everything is resolved. I think both sides are still pretty upset at one another. So that's something we're going to have to monitor as those next games get closer next month. But the Mariners did make some moves today. And one of them is unfortunate. I'll get to the trade, which is the fun part in a minute. Luis Torrens is now on the 10-day injured list because he was hurt in that fight. And that's what you hate to see. They're calling it shoulder inflammation. And so suddenly the Mariners have just Cal Raleigh at catcher until they brought in Andrew Knapp, called up from Tacoma. He played 11 games with the Pittsburgh Pirates earlier on this season. But the big move today is the Mariners trade for Carlos Santana, 36 years old, has a big bat. He actually is batting .357 in the month of June, so that's very good. Not just in the wake of the suspensions, but in the idea that Ty France, remember, is on the 10-day DL. And that the Mariners, even when they were at full strength, I say that term loosely without Kyle Lewis and Mitch Haniger, even when they're not at full strength, they've had trouble with runners in scoring position. So that'll be a big help. We'll see what Santana can do. Fun factor, he actually came aboard in the trade that brought J.P. Crawford to town, but he was moved 10 days later, so he never actually played here. But now they're reunited, so that's what's really cool about it. I think that'll be a nice addition for the Mariners. He can do some infield spots, first base, in France's absence. He can DH, which I think you'll see him primarily when the suspensions are served and Ty France comes back. It's a veteran bat that the Mariners need right now, and it's one of those deals where let's see how this all plays out. Let's see how the suspension appeals go. Let's see how they stagger those suspensions. And again, I would love more clarity from Major League Baseball on what exactly Julio Rodriguez did. You're talking about a 21-year-old kid saying after the game, I just want to play. I just want to play ball. He gets thrown at. I don't know what he did, but we don't want to say he did nothing because you don't know what angles of the fight we weren't able to see. So that gets you up to date on the Sunday BASEBRAWL. We obviously are open to your opinion. We want to hear what you're saying in the comments. Our vote on Twitter right now has you 85% voting against, saying the Angels are to blame here. And I would say the umpires are really to blame. They could have diffused the situation, but they did not. Let's see how it affects the Mariners. You got to remember, they've won 5 of their last 6, their longest winning streak of the season, ending in yesterday's loss. It was a 5-game win streak. Let's see if they can get back on track going forward here, and let's see if that's impacted by the suspensions and injuries that come out of this fight. Thanks for joining me tonight. I'm Nico Tamuri, and that is the KOMO Sports End Zone.
Premieres Sunday, July 10th on ABC and stream on Hulu.
Muckleshoot Bingo is having a red, white, and bingo 4th of July weekend on Friday, July 1st.